when a woman I barely knew marched up my driveway, waved a pink clipboard, and demanded to use my private pool for her daughter's wedding. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. What followed was a war of entitlement, Jello, and the most outrageous HOA showdown this neighborhood has ever seen. And yes, it ends with a belly flop, viral fame, and one very angry Karen. Buckle up because you won't believe how this goes down. The audacity felt like a slap. Marjorie Hensley, who'd apparently crowned herself the Empress of the HOA, stormed up my driveway with a pink clipboard clutched like a royal scepter. "My daughter's wedding is next Saturday," she announced, "and we'll be using your pool for the reception." I stood there stunned, thinking surely this had to be some kind of joke. But her stone-cold stare told me she was dead serious. According to her, since we lived under the same HOA, that meant the community amenities, apparently including my private, fenced-in, perfectly maintained backyard pool, were now up for grabs. Before I could even get a word out, she tapped her clipboard, nudged her sunglasses up her nose, and added, "I'll send my niece over to prep towels and refreshments. Just keep the gate unlocked." Then she turned and strutted off, heels clicking like she'd just signed a peace treaty between nations. I was speechless. Even my golden retriever, Rusty, tilted his head like he couldn't believe what just happened. Was I hallucinating? No. The echo of her heels still tapped down the pavement. I glanced over at my pool, its crystal blue surface a product of endless scrubbing, expenses, and effort. It was my pride, my escape. And now it was apparently being repurposed as a splash zone for some stranger's wedding? I laughed, not because it was funny, but because of how insane it was. She really believed I'd just hand over my sanctuary like a free rental. What she didn't know was that I'm Ethan Ramsey, a 40-year-old mechanic who's fought hard for every inch of this property. This wasn't about the bride. I didn't even know her name. No, this was about Marjorie and her entitlement. She thought my backyard was her personal Pinterest board. So I texted Tom, my neighbor, the one actually hosting the wedding, to confirm. His reply, "Wait, what? Marjorie said you offered the pool." She lied. That night, drink in hand, sitting on my patio, the spark of a deliciously petty plan flickered to life. I remembered the stash in my pantry. Dozens of cherry Jello boxes, bought on clearance for a party that never happened. Now, they had a new purpose. Wiggly, jiggly vengeance. I Googled, how much gelatin does it take to fill a 20,000-gallon pool? The answer? Ridiculous, but exactly what I needed to mess up her little power play. By morning, I was hauling pots and buckets into my cart at the hardware store, unloading a mountain of Jello boxes, around 200, at the checkout line. Game on. The cashier gave me a look, eyebrow raised. "Pool party?" he asked. I flashed him a grin. He chuckled, none the wiser. For days, I worked like a man on a mission. Early mornings, late nights, boiling water, mixing Jello powder, pouring it into the shallow end. I stirred it all with a painter's paddle while Rusty sat nearby, watching with mild judgment in his eyes. But I was committed. This wasn't just a prank, it was rebellion. A rebellion against Marjorie's HOA tyranny that had slowly crept in ever since she declared herself acting president. By day 4, the shallow end had transformed into a glossy red sea, useless for swimming, perfect for sabotage. I lobbed a tennis ball at it. It bounced. Victory. I set up cameras, hung a sign that read, "Caution, experimental dessert." Cooling in progress, and then waited. Saturday morning arrived. Marjorie's niece, Sophie, showed up first. 16, decked out in designer wear, arms full of towels and flamingo floats. She shoved open my gate, completely ignoring the sign, and froze. Jaw dropped. "Is this jelly?" she whispered, prodding it with one perfectly manicured finger. I strolled out, spoon in hand, just in time to garnish. She took one look at me and bolted. 15 minutes later, Marjorie's screech pierced the air, a full-body, rage-fueled scream. She came storming over, face as red as the pool, finger aimed like a weapon. "You ruined the wedding. This is vandalism." I leaned back, spoon in mouth. "It's culinary art. My pool. My property. You just assumed otherwise." Her mouth opened and shut like a fish. "Your guests can grab a spoon," I added. I've got whipped cream, too. She made some sort of strangled noise and fled, promising HOA vengeance. I gave her a wave. Rusty barked. I stirred the Jello, savoring the chaos. Wedding day had become a full-blown spectacle. Trucks beeped, chairs were set up, and Marjorie's voice echoed like a megaphone across the neighborhood as she bossed around caterers and relatives in her pastel suit. Part wedding planner, part dictator. From my patio, I watched the madness unfold. Coffee in hand, sunglasses on, enjoying every minute of it. Guests started peeking through the fence. Phones came out, snap, snap. One woman called the Jello pool adorable. Not quite the reaction I was aiming for, but I'd take it. 4 nights of boiling and pouring had led to this. Sophie came back, this time with 2 teens, towels, a cooler, and a boombox. She brushed past my sign again. Marjorie said we could hang here. I nodded toward the red wobble. Plenty of chill in there, but dive in and you'll be seeing stars. One of the boys poked it and laughed. Is this edible? Only if you sign a waiver, I replied. Rusty gave a low growl. That did the trick. They bailed. Then came the storm. Marjorie shrieking once more. You think this is funny? You're ruining my daughter's day. Marjorie screeched, pacing like a furious rooster. She launched into a tirade about guests expecting a pool, her public embarrassment, and how the HOA would hear about this outrage. Drain it. Now, she snapped. I couldn't help the smirk. Melting 300 gallons of Jello takes a while, unless you brought a flamethrower. In response, she kicked over a flamingo float and stormed off, howling threats about lawsuits. By noon, word had spread. Gossip was flying. Kids whispered about someone peeing in it. A bridesmaid dipped her hand in and giggled. It's like solid jam. She took a selfie, and within seconds, Karen's Kool-Aid catastrophe was trending across the wedding. A slightly drunk groomsman challenged his buddy, $50 to belly flop. Without hesitation, the guy ran, leapt, landed square in the gelatin, and bounced, then slid across the surface, yelping the whole way. The crowd erupted in laughter. Even the bride, Emily, was chuckling from the yard next door. Marjorie burst out again, screeching about head injuries and legal action. The groomsman wiped off some Jello and yelled, "Best wedding ever!" I looked her in the eye and grinned. Your dull little reception just went viral. Smile, you're trending. Phones were up. Hashtags exploded. Number sign Jello Pool HOA. Number sign Karen Gone Wiggly. By Sunday, the neighborhood buzzed. Teens rode their bikes over to gawk. Parents with coffee cups wandered by for a peek. Even old Mrs. Harper hobbled up, cane in hand, eyes twinkling. Jello took down Marjorie, she said. Didn't think I'd live to see the day. Not everyone was laughing, though. Walter, the HOA president, usually Marjorie's lapdog, knocked at my door looking like he hadn't slept. Karen's called an emergency board meeting, he sighed. She's saying you sabotaged a community event, embarrassed her in front of guests, and created a hazardous environment. I leaned against the doorframe. She trespassed, lied about getting my permission, turned my pool into a venue without consent. I've got cameras, timestamps, and witnesses. He scratched his head. She's talking lawsuits, says her paralegal brother is on standby. I chuckled. Good. I'd love to explain to a judge why I filled my own pool with Jello to keep trespassers out. Walter actually laughed. You're a weird genius, Ethan. By midday, the HOA's Facebook group had turned into a circus. Someone remixed Marjorie's screams and the groomsman's flop with clown music. Memes exploded. A close-up of her scowling face next to a spoon, captioned Taste Justice. She tried deleting them, but like gelatin, they jiggled back stronger. Neighbors started posting about her past tyranny. Petty fines for Halloween decorations left up 2 days late, banning wind chimes for spiritual interference. One board member even posted, Marjorie isn't a planning committee, she's a Pinterest dictator. That evening, David, the groom, showed up. Later that evening, Emily and David stopped by, tired but visibly relieved. We had no clue Marjorie lied about using your pool, David said, shaking his head. She hijacked the whole thing. Our vendors, flowers, even invited guests we didn't know. Emily offered a weary smile. Honestly, the Jello was the only part that felt fun. Over glasses of lemonade, they shared the chaos Marjorie had caused, her outrageous demands for towering centerpieces, a DJ fiasco that derailed the schedule. But how the absurdity of the gelatin pool had somehow salvaged the day. You turned her power trip into a punchline? Emily grinned. I offered them some leftover Jello for a celebratory food fight. They passed, but laughed hard. Before leaving, Emily snapped a selfie in front of the pool and captioned it, "Best wedding moment. Long live the Jello King." That single post exploded. Reddit threads, HOA memes. Corral forums lit up. In true Karen fashion, Marjorie retaliated with printed flyers accusing me of weaponizing dessert. She demanded local grocery stores ban Jello and even pitched a news segment, rejected for being too ridiculous. She tried calling my pool a public health risk. The inspector arrived, took one look, and burst out laughing.